Welcome to this episode of The Mobile Classroom, the weekly video podcast where we demonstrate today's most popular technologies. I'm James Messer, and this week we're up to episode 38, and this one's entitled Google Search Tips and Tricks. You know, almost everyone uses Google, and certainly you're familiar with going to the Google and typing in perhaps a search string that you'd like to find some information on. But there's a number of tips and tricks you can do to first optimize what you're doing when you're searching for things with Google. And that can become very useful. These days, if you're looking for a very broad topic, you'll notice that you'll get back a lot of entries in Google, and some of them may not necessarily apply to what you're looking for. There's a few things you can type in right at the search bar that will help you narrow down exactly what you're looking for. I'll show you some of those tips. There's also a number of capabilities in Google that can give you quick pieces of information. Google has a built-in calculator. It can tell you about changes in the costs or differences between different types of currency, for instance. Some of these capabilities, you don't even have to hit enter. Just type it in the Google box and it tells you right away. And lastly, there are some really nice, very broad capabilities for looking at trends over long periods of time of what other people might be searching for. Imagine if you're Google, you're collecting a ton of information about a lot of different search topics. And if you are someone who is selling a product or you're trying to do some things online, it might be useful to see how many people are searching for a particular topic. What are the most popular topics today? Over the last 3 years, how often has this particular word been searched for? There's a lot of really great research capabilities there, and we're going to go through all of these in this week's episode. Here we are at the Google. Let's go through a couple of different kinds of searches. Let me start you off with a very literal search. And here's one that many people use. This is a well-known one. If you put anything in quotes, it makes the search specifically to what you have in those quotes in that order. So if I'm looking for a would you like to buy an O, and I put that all in quotes, it's going to look for exactly that phrase in that order in the quotes. Now keep in mind here with Google, Google does not care about case. It really doesn't care much about punctuation or special characters. There's certain things that it does look for, and you'll see this in some of our searches later. But for the vast majority of things that occur in Google, the case of the letters in the search window and some of the things that we're typing in with other special characters or small words like a and an, those are really not cared for much by Google. It doesn't pay any attention to those. If we put this in quotes and we hit enter, you can see that all of our search results came up with that exact phrase. Would you like to buy an O? Would you like to buy an O? Would you like to buy an O? It's not any combination of those in any particular order. It's exactly that phrase because we put that in quotes. And so we know whenever we type that in, that Google will absolutely find the exact phrase in that order all the way through that piece. Let's say that we wanted to buy something, but it wasn't an O. Let's say that we didn't want to have a search where we wanted to buy an O. Maybe we wanted to buy something, but it was anything that was not an O. If I put a dash, a minus sign, and O, now I'm saying I would still like to see the phrase, would you like to buy an, but I don't want the word or the letter, in this case, O, anything after that dash to appear in the answers that we get for the search. So if we hit enter there, you can see, would you like to buy an fuzzy multis, blah, 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 duck game? Would you like to buy an apple? Would you like to buy an environmentally friendly building? Would you like to buy an Apple video iPod? So everything but O showed up in these search results. So by using the quotes and the minus sign, we can specify exactly certain things we would like to see, and we can specify things we absolutely never want to see in a Google search. Let's take the idea of using that minus sign and turn it around. What if in every search we were using, we always wanted to make sure a particular word was always used? And this comes up a lot. Let's say if I was to type into my Google, order coffee beans, and I hit enter, one of the things that Google is very good at is finding synonyms for things. And it knows if you're looking for coffee beans, that you might be looking for a coffee maker, a coffee grinder, a coffee French press, and it starts giving you different options that are based on the things that were in the words that you typed in. So a lot of synonyms show up in those cases. If you wanted to take some of these words and say, forget the synonyms, never, ever do a synonym for beans, always show me everything that is a beans. It must have the word beans in it for me to complete that search, I put a plus sign in front of it. And if I hit enter, notice that all of those things we just saw, the French press goes away, the coffee maker goes away. The only thing left here are words that match order coffee and absolutely has the word beans somewhere in it. So that's one way that you can tell Google, forget about the guessing game. I know you're trying to help, but I definitely want the word beans in this particular search. So I'm going to put a plus sign right in front of it. And that's one way that I could start narrowing down on very important words in my Google search. We can also tell Google to make some choices, to make some decisions for us just by using some operators here. I'm going to say order coffee beans or perhaps cups. So I'll take either one of those. I really don't care. Find beans or find cups. It doesn't have to be all of those together. It can be a combination of different things. One of the things you'll notice here is that I put or in uppercase. That's required. I told you that case doesn't matter for the things you're searching for, but for some of these special operators and some other things that I'm going to show you during this, everything that is not something we're searching for occasionally does have a very specific case associated with it, and the or command is one of those. So if I put beans or cups, there's coffee mugs and coffee cups. Notice there's no beans there. So that's okay. Even though I put plus beans, I put plus beans or plus cups, and cups was in there, so it matches. Here's coffee bean direct coffee roasters. There's beans definitely in there. I don't think there's any cups in there, at least not in the piece that I could see in that little summary view. So already by putting the or in place, I've now given Google a couple of different options for me and showed now an answer to all of those on one screen, whether I'm looking for coffee beans or coffee cups, just by using that or right in the middle of beans or cups. What if you're doing a search for something and you know what you're looking for is on a particular website? You would just like to search through that particular website. You don't want to have to go to the website and find its find or its search function on that website. You would just like to type it in Google and have Google automatically filter out everything but that particular website. So I've got an example we can use here. Let's use tax forms. Now, you can get tax forms a lot of places on the internet. Here in the United States, there is the IRS, which is a government site where a lot of tax forms are kept. And by putting in the site : and the site that I'm interested in searching for, the only results that will come back are those that match irs.gov. And that can be www.irs.gov or anything else as part of the site. Notice also that the word site is lowercase. That's an important piece of this. That can't be a capital S, for instance, in site. Everything with that : those words with those the special words that we're going to end with a : all need to be in lowercase in the search view. Maybe the tax forms we're looking for are not on a government site. Are there any tax forms that might be on a .com? I'm just going to type in site:.com. I'm not even going to specify any other site name and hit enter, and it's going to show me everything that is a .com site that might have the word tax forms on it somewhere. So that gives me an idea of places I can go to start finding these different parts of a document, a file, or something else that might be there. Now, using the dot in the .com was a bit of a wildcard. Even though I didn't specify a specific wildcard in here, it really just chose everything that had the words or the characters .com as part of the site name. But what if I would like to use a wildcard as part of the search that I'm doing? Let's say, for instance, that I would like to find the top things that are in Tallahassee. So that's where our headquarters is here at Messer Studios. So I'm going to choose the top something in Tallahassee. And because I put an asterisk in, it's going to take anything in a search that might be the top blank in Tallahassee. And if I hit enter, it's going to bring up top. Let's see, I have top searched in Tallahassee, top searched psychologist in Tallahassee. I have best local coupons. Again, that synonym capability in Google is working. My top hotels in Tallahassee. So you can see I'm taking an entire word. In fact, let's now have just use top blank in. Top neurologists, top hotels, top rated pros, top choices. By having the asterisk there, Google is just going to put in anything that might fit based on those searches that it's doing. Another thing to keep in mind is that this has to be an entire word. I cannot do top something in TALLA asterisk. That's not going to work. That's Tala. That's not the same thing as Tallahassee. That really is just using Tala as what we have there. So keep that in mind too, that you can't use part of a word using that wildcard like you might do if you're used to using that in an operating system. It doesn't work that way. It must be an entire whole word that you're replacing to be able to have that work properly. You can also use Google to find a range of different things. Let's say you're searching for a digital camera, but you're only looking for a digital camera that might fall under a certain price range. Well, we can use Google to search for that as well. Let's use a digital camera. I like the Canon, and I want to find a Canon camera. And I want to find one that might be, I don't know, $400 all the way up to $500. By putting 2 dots between the 400 and 500, Google knows, oh, you're looking for a range. So anything between 400 and 500 that has Canon camera associated with it. And the results that I come up with is this, a Canon PowerShot. This is one that's $479. Here's one that's $500 and $500, $484. And so that gives me an idea of places I can go with this. Maybe I'd like it to be a little less expensive, $200 to $400. Let's see what my options are. Here's another different PowerShot. Here's another PowerShot, 10 megapixel, $349, $399. So you can use this as a way to say, I'd like to see a range of possible answers for those numbers. And you just put 2 periods in between those numbers. And Google knows at that point to use that entire range as part of its searching. You can also use Google to look for files. It doesn't have to be just an individual web page. Maybe you are looking for a PDF of some kind that you'd like to download and look at it not in a web page format, but a PDF format. Maybe I'm looking for the U.S. Constitution. I think I spelled that well. And it takes me to all of these different websites where I can look at the U.S. Constitution. I can go to this index page on usconstitution.net. I can go to Wikipedia and read the U.S. Constitution. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted a PDF file of the Constitution. So I can simply add a parameter called file type, and I want to look for a file type that is a PDF. Now the search results that come back will all be PDF files, PDF files, PDF files. And from there, I'm able to pull up and look at a PDF file rather than a web page. And because it's a PDF file, it keeps all the same formatting. There's some extra capabilities that I have of being able to see what's on here. So let's have a look. And there it is. You wouldn't have quite this same view on a web page. And now I've got this in this PDF format that now I'm able to do some other things with. If you're looking for something that's very, very specific, you may want Google to only look maybe at the titles of the web page that's indexed, or maybe just look at the text that might be on a page. That's certain parameters that you can put in here will help you with that. Let's say we're looking for cookies, but I'm looking for a delivery of cookies, and I want that to be in the title of the page. So I'll put in title and I'll put delivery. What could be better than getting cookies delivered? So here are some options for the word cookie anywhere, and delivery must be in the title. And here I've got some different options that have shown up. Notice I've got delivery in every single one of these titles that's shown up. Now let's go a little bit further. I know that that's in the title, but now I want to look in the text of the page itself, and I want to look for something that might be close to me. So I'm going to do in text and put Florida. And now it will show me anything that has the word cookie anywhere. It just has delivery in the title, and anywhere in the text of the page is the word Florida. So that gives me some ideas of what I can do. I've got cookiesbydesign.com, giftbasketsuperstore.com, flippinggoodcookies.com. Already that sounds pretty good. Now I'd like to take this to the next level. Maybe I would like to focus my efforts not on a specific domain that might be in the URL. You recall we used the site : and we could look for everything on a particular site. Maybe I'm looking for just something that might be in the URL itself. Maybe I'm looking in the URL for any word that might be chocolate. So that's a very specific one, and you can see the URLs that show up have the word chocolate somewhere in them, whether it's in the domain name or somewhere else within the URL. And if we went to that site, we would know that the pages we were looking at have cookie anywhere, delivery in the title, Florida in the text, and chocolate in the URL. Sometimes when you're trying to find exactly the right kind of information, using a few of those extra little search parameters can really come in handy. Well, looking for web pages is one thing, but sometimes you're just looking for a particular piece of information, and you would like to have a source to go to where you can instantly get feedback on what you're looking for. Google provides us with a number of little utility features that are hidden in there, and just by typing in the right thing, we can get a lot of information back, sometimes without even having to press the enter key. Let's try some of those. If you've ever tried to calculate what the time might be somewhere else, you know it can be a complex issue of trying to figure out if you're in a daylight savings time or not, whether that location you're looking at happens to be in which time zone. Sometimes it's easier just to type it into Google and get that information. And if you're trying to find out what time you should start a meeting, where somebody happens to be, you can just type into Google the time in Seattle, for instance. And if I hit enter, it tells me that it's 12:45 p.m. on Saturday. PDT is the time in Seattle, Washington. You can type in any name up here. Type in time in Puerto Rico. In fact, you'll notice as I'm typing these things in, it even tells me it's 6:46 p.m. Saturday in Puerto Rico in the United States of America, AST time, which is the Atlantic Standard Time. So already I didn't even have to hit enter there. It gave me some feedback. Let's try another one. Let's try Dallas, Texas. You have to spell it correctly, though. There we go, 2:46 p.m. in Dallas, Texas. Google makes a great way to figure out where times might be. So if you're setting up a time in Phoenix, you know that it's 12:46 in Phoenix too. And Phoenix, notice, is on standard time and not daylight time like the rest of the country. Google has really saved me a couple of times, and I've made my meeting time just because I knew exactly what it was out in the Phoenix time zone. Google can also do a number of calculations in its search box. It does addition and subtraction. If you take 888 and subtract 213 from it, Google will tell you that 888 minus 213 is 675. Well, that one's easy, but what if it's something a little more complicated? The pizza guy's shown up and I need to give him 20% of a $50 pizza. It's going to tell me, oh, well, that's $10. So it tells you right away in the calculator the things you can do. There's a lot of functionalities with the calculator, square roots and different things you can do with public data, population of certain areas, the time in London, we just did that one. A lot of great little really quick essentials, they call them, to be able to see some of those things. Let's do another one. I would like to, for instance, get a definition. This happens a lot. If you're typing, you're trying to figure out the word for fastidious, and you hit enter, Google will immediately bring you up a web phrase of what is fastidious defined of on the web. Notice I didn't get web pages back. I got a definition page because I started it with a define colon and the name of the word. So there I see fastidious, given careful attention to detail, excessively particular, demanding, or fussy about details. And now if you're in the middle of typing something, you're doing a report, trying to get a document done, you aren't quite certain the word to use for that or what that might mean, type it into Google. They'll give you great definition. Google also makes a great currency conversion. I want to know how much 100 US dollars in yen might be, and it tells me that's 8,643 Japanese yen. It even gives me a breakdown of the US dollar and yen. I can even type different numbers into this. $150 is how much yen. You've got a nice little conversion tool built into the Google front end. If you travel a lot, you're going a lot of places all the time, that's one thing that a traveler certainly helps them with. If you're also a traveler, you might want to get information on what flights might be available. Maybe you're traveling from Atlanta to San Francisco. CISCO. There we go. If you hit enter, you just put in two names, it's a city name, and you'll see it'll tell you flights right away of the two locations you're going to. Maybe I'm going from Tallahassee to Charlotte. Hit enter, and it tells me here's the flights departing Tallahassee to Charlotte. And I've got the choice there. I can choose Expedia or Travelocity. Maybe I want to see all my options at Kayak for that. I can put in departing and returning information. It pulls it right into Kayak based on what I put there and starts filling in the details of what my options are and what might be available to me. So Google makes a great way to head in that travel piece and give you an idea of how to find some of that information quickly. Well, that's an easy way to find your flights, but maybe you would also like to find out some flight status. Maybe you'd like to know Delta Flight 224, and I don't know if there's a 224. Oh, there is. There's one that's on schedule. Here it is, the status of Delta 224 from Seattle to Amsterdam. It departs at 5:20 p.m. from Seattle. So you can type that in. It will take you to a flight stats screen and will show you the status for that flight and pop up for you a map of where that flight happens to be going, all from this one line. You can see it already put in the information there. It took me to the location, and I could say, yeah, grab that information, search for that date, and bring me up that information for that flight, and it'll show you exactly where the flight might be as it's flying through the air. It's another way that if you're traveling, you're trying to figure out where is that flight, you're waiting on somebody, just go right to Google and put in that flight, the name of the airline and the flight number, and it'll pull that right up for you. There's a number of also really nice, quick resources I can pull out of Google. This is just a few of them. There's many, many more that you can do some research on and find out more about. For instance, if you wanted to find stock information, you could type stock : and the name of the ticker, and it will tell you information about your stock. Maybe you'd like to know more about the weather, either where you are, someplace you'd like to go. Weather : and the zip code, for instance, or the name of the location will pop up the weather. Looks like it's 78 degrees and a little cloudy, partly cloudy, some rain in my future. Well, that's probably a good sign that I should be taking the family to a movie. And I would like to take them maybe to Toy Story 3, and we can enter valid locations. Takes me right to the Google Showtimes view, and then from there you can do almost anything to find the movies you're looking for. You could also do something even more obscure. Maybe you're trying to know what the radius of the Earth is. I can put r_Earth, and it'll show me what the radius of the Earth might be. So a pretty diverse set of functions available to you. If you start poking around and trying different things at Google, you may be surprised what you can find. If you're somebody who's looking for more research information that you can use based on all of these different searches that people are doing on Google, you'll probably want to look at the Google Zeitgeist. The Zeitgeist is a front end that, as you can see, the German word Zeitgeist means the spirit of the times. Google has aggregated all of these millions of searches going on and presented us with a few options available: Google Trends for websites, Insights for search, and Hot Trends. If you're someone who's really trying to do a lot of research, this can really be useful. If we just go to Google Trends, you can see you've got a few options that you can have in here. Here's the hot topics right now. Here's the hot searches right now. They've got some examples you can use in here. And you might want to do something like, I want to show you one that's sort of, that has a cycle associated with it. So I'm going to use, since we're on the idea of cookies, let's do Girl Scout cookies and hit enter. And what it's going to bring up is not only some of the major items that it has to search with associated with the term Girl Scout cookies, it also shows me how many searches are occurring for that, going all the way back in this view to 2004. Notice that search these Girl Scout cookies come out just at the beginning of the year. There's a big hit, and looks like another hit right after that. Looks like they're getting a couple. Maybe that happens at different times or in a different country. It's like D and E, for instance. So we can always see here that every time at a certain time of the year, we're going to have Girl Scout cookies hit on this. You can see a similar thing if you do, let's add to this mix. Let's add not just Girl Scout cookies. How does this compete with Christmas cookies? If you spell it right. There we go. And now it overlays on top of it both of those search terms. And you can see Christmas shows up, and right after Christmas, the Girl Scout cookies take over. Perfect timing, I think. They've really thought their marketing through quite nicely. And as you can see with Google Trends, you have a very good idea of who's doing this, where this is coming from, the cities and the locations there. You can really start to see a lot. And if you're a business that sells a particular product, type your product in here, and you may get a chance to see when that product becomes more popular at what time of the year. It can be a very, very valuable tool for you to use in your own marketing. Another nice trend tool is the trends for websites. And from here, you can type in website names. If you want to see what has Twitter.com done over time, notice that it was going along pretty well. And then January of 2010 had a nice spike up right there. Maybe you want to compare that to another website. Let's compare it to Facebook.com. And now you can see Facebook, obviously much, much more searches for Facebook than we're getting for Twitter. Much more popular service. In fact, kind of slants down and flattens out that Twitter line. But you can see their growth a little bit more of a straight line going up rather than having any big hops up in there. So you can take any website, put in that information, see what information you can gather about those search terms to those websites. A couple of different ways to research those. If you're really looking at detailed information that you're trying to get a lot of detail on, you're a power user for searching. Insights for search is something you're really going to like. Let's add a term in here. Let's add a hot topic right now is 3D television. And let's hit enter. And it's going to show me the interest in 3D television over time. Notice 2004, 5, 6, not much going on. But boy, right as 2010 started, we had this take off. The idea of 3D television really happened, and we're getting a lot of interest in those terms. I can also add other pieces to this, maybe another term like deer hunting. Let's try one of those terms. And you can see the cyclical interest over time with these. Also with these, you can also blend in more information about the search regionally. You can start to see very specific search terms about what you've chosen. You've also got filters set on this. Maybe you just want to know what people are searching for in the news, in products, maybe not in the worldwide, maybe in a particular country, maybe just in the United States. Search for that. Then it becomes a little more interesting. How about just in Florida? Let's search. So now you can start to see the differences in Florida, maybe add that difference there, and maybe let's compare it to a state like Vermont. Are we getting a similar thing in Vermont? A little bit different. Looks like their deer season might be a little bit different there. So if you're someone who sells something that might be associated with hunter and deer season, this might be a way to determine how should I be laying out my marketing? How can I attract customers? How can I decide when might be the best time of the year to present them with some resources that might help them when they're doing their deer hunting? Well, hopefully you can see there's a lot more to Google than just typing in a couple of phrases there in the Google search bar and trying to find the information you're looking for. You've got a lot of other options you can type in to really narrow down your specific search. You could find out very specific information quickly about flights and the time of day and information about currency exchanges and much more. And maybe you'd like to see what other people are searching for. Do your own research and your own marketing. Find out what's really going on behind the scenes, broken out by search phrases, categories, locations around the world, much more. If you'd like to follow us, you can go to our website and follow us at themobileclassroom.com. You can, of course, watch us on Twitter at twitter.com/mobileclassroom. There's also a link on our webpage. You can like us on Facebook, and every time we put out a new episode of The Mobile Classroom, you'll absolutely be informed of when that's available. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you next time on The Mobile Classroom.